For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Birthday boy Jeremy Bradley, is that what I'm supposed to say today? It's my birthday, and it's always weird when people... I don't know that I've ever... First of all, I hate social media. I've said that many, many times on this show. I don't think that I've ever gone onto social media and done one of those attention-seeking, look at this guy turning 40 today, because... Really, that's just, it's fishing for compliments, right? Well, first of all, it's fishing for a happy birthday. And then it's, oh my God, you look good. Oh my God. I don't fucking care. I really don't care. But here's the thing. I'm 43 today. And, most people kind of get into this slump when they hit their 40s, or when they turn 40, and then it's just like a downhill throughout your 40s, right? For me, people on my 40th birthday you get the old person over the hill jokes, right? The old grandpa and whatever. And I guess maybe if you look old, or if if you're tired and you're sore and, everything's wrong, well then, yeah, your 40th birthday might hit you pretty hard. So for me, and I'm not easily offended anyway, but I just, you kind of just laugh it off when people make the jokes. And I was kind of like, yeah, you know what? And it was for people who are, younger than me. I would say to them, like, but I still look younger than you. So, and that's not even me just trying to, slam them. That's the reality. Like, I'm very youthful. So there have been a few things that have happened in the last couple of weeks that are actually making me feel not better about turning 43, because it was never going to be a crisis for me in the first place, but this is maybe just a story for people who are aging and kind of, humdrum and going through a crisis, as they say. I'll talk about that on The Scribble, starting right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
43-year-old Jeremy Bradley here on The Scribble. What do they say? Age is just a number, right? It's all about, how you feel. And here's the thing. I am still silly and youthful. And, my cousin, her husband travels a lot for work. So he's out of town quite a bit. And we spend a lot of time, either video chatting or getting together and hanging out. And we will just go and do the silliest things. She's in our late 50s almost, mid to late 50s. And so her kids are already grown. Like, her kids, I think, are in their their kids are grown. And so we'll get together and basically just not know what we're going to do, but we just know we're getting together. And we've done it so many times that it's kind of like, well, whatever, we'll figure it out. Right? It's not, you know how some people you have to like start planning days in advance, or you have that group at work where it's like it's time you're going to order lunch as a group, but nobody can decide where they want, and then you're just kind of like, okay, we've already been at this for an hour. Like, are we just ordering or what's going on? Like, we just somebody decide somebody what we want. Well, do you want pizza? I don't want pizza. Do you want the? Ugh. So with my cousin, we just get together. We just. Well, okay, so 8 o'clock? Yeah, okay, I'll pick you up at 8 or whatever. Okay, fine. What are we doing? I don't know. And it's fun every time. So we've done things like we've gone to the casino, we've gone, the arcade actually was probably one of the most fun times because we're just, there's all these little like hooligan, teenage or whatever, 20-year-old like, thug gangster teeny bopper whatever on a Saturday, and it's an arcade and a bowling alley. Like it's kind of just like a big amusement facility. And so they're doing like the laser tag and then whatever. And so I just said, you know what? Let's just screw it. And you know what? Because we were getting into it and having fun, they weren't looking at us as though, look at these old people or whatever. Because again, I look really youthful. But it was just kind of like, we were just silly. And then we were getting competitive. There was like this basketball. It was Connect 4, but it was basketball. So you had to, there was like 8 columns or however many there are on a Connect 4 board, I don't remember. And, she had the red ball and then I had yellow, and then, you were shooting, right? And then you had to get 4 in a row, and whoever would win would get tickets, or, you had the prize tickets, like Chuck E. Cheese back in the day. And so it was just, we were playfully getting competitive, right? So she would win, and then I would say, all right, another round. And then I would go and get more. I ran out of tokens or whatever you call it, credit on the machines or the games. So I'd go and get another $5 or $10. And we spent probably like 3 hours there. And again, you get those like cheap tickets or like it's nothing, whatever. I can just go and buy something cheaper at the store. But it was just more about having the good time and being together and just laughing and being silly. And so, I think about that being, 43 years old, and people who have kids or whatever. I mean, I can't stand kids. My husband and I, like, we just, whatever. I think to people that, so some of my, relatives or whoever who are 43, well, they're all older now. I'm the youngest in the family. But I'm sitting there going, okay, when my brothers were 43, they were not just getting silly and doing shit like that, right? Because I don't even know that I've got 2 brothers. Like, I don't even know they were doing a boys' night out, away from the wives or anything like that. Maybe they would be, but it wasn't, just the silly, okay, let's just like let loose and, laugh. They just, and, there's something about whether it's having kids or, just aging or whatever, where I'm like, wow. So you might remember a few months ago, I was talking about my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. Okay. Now, I haven't seen a lot of my family in a long time because my family's in Winnipeg, and my husband and I spend most of our time in West Hollywood. We're not in Winnipeg a lot. We still have a house in Winnipeg, but I don't really keep in touch with, relatives or whatever. I don't, I don't post about my life on social media. I don't really know what's happening in theirs because I just don't care. And so it was the first time in probably, truthfully, I would say almost maybe 3 years that I've seen some of these people. And my mom's side of the family is very close. My dad's side of the family doesn't really get together as much. And so, these were people that when I was living in Winnipeg full time, I would see, like, there was at least once a month, there was some, family get together, whether it was for somebody's birthday or, a holiday. So to get together and see, there was about 70, I'm trying to think of how many people, whatever. It wasn't a massive party for the anniversary, but I was kind of like, oh, it's going to be nice to see. And this is maybe me trash talking my family, but thankfully they don't listen to this. I was looking at going, I look really out of place here because I look so young and youthful. And again, it's not me being cocky, because let me finish my thought here before you jump on me. Some of my friends knew about this party that was happening, and oh, how was it, whatever. And so I ended up sending some pictures to people, to my friend Lisa, to my friend Tim, to a couple of and then some of our coworkers here. And people like Bonnie, our executive producer, have known my family, for 20 some years. That's how long Bonnie's been in my life. So everybody wanted to know how it was, and so I went and I texted some pictures to friends. And Lisa, who I've known for about 8 or 9 years now, I guess. She's my husband's assistant. We hired her as his assistant. She was just like, oh my God, you look so out of place there. Everybody is, just looking either like so frumpy and tired and worn down. And she's like, you just have this like well-rested, kind of energy. And I said, do you know what it is first of all, the no kids thing. I really think that's a big thing. And I said, it's not stressing about life. It's not, as I mentioned about social media. I don't give two shits about social media. I'm not consumed with updating the world about, what's going on in my life. And I don't care what's happening in other people's lives. And that's where people might go and say, oh, well, it's selfish. Here's the thing. If you don't give a fuck about my life, I'm not giving a fuck about yours. And that could be a conclusion that I've drawn since I'm getting older. Right? You have to remember that in my world, as as a writer, as an entrepreneur, nobody in my family really got it. Nobody understood that lifestyle. And so for me, I wasn't getting a pat on the head. Oh my God, you're going to a Hollywood red carpet this weekend? Oh my God, you're interviewing so-and-so? I didn't get that excitement from my family because they just didn't, they were like, well, whatever, who knows? He doesn't have a real job is what I would hear. So, I was kind of dismissed. I was sort of brushed off. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here going, excuse me, this is probably like the most exciting job in the family. I mean, everybody else has, with all due respect to teachers and things like that. I mean, is that really an exciting job? I don't know. It's a very common one, sure. But who, in Winnipeg, who did not work for any of the big broadcast companies, was able to go and say, hey, yeah, I'm packing up and going to Hollywood this weekend and, covering the AMAs, covering the Emmys, covering the, whatever was happening. And so I was like, all right, I'll just bottle that up. I'll just put up a wall. I'm like, I'll live my life. I will enjoy my success. I will celebrate my accomplishments. And I don't have to worry about, the naysayers or the people who just don't give two shits about it. And again, that's fine. I'm not, crying foul here because like I said, I don't care about my cousins' lives. I don't care about their kids playing soccer or making the championship or whatever it is. And that's okay because we have our own lives, right? I don't want to make it seem like, oh, my family shunned me or whatever. That's not the case. So I'm just saying they haven't taken a vested interest in what I've done. And so I'm okay with that. But when I get together with them and go, holy shit, do I look better than these people? It was just so funny because, it's not a dressy kind of a group. So I wasn't expecting people to be, all, formal or whatever. It was at a freaking community center hall. Like it wasn't a big to do. But even still, just looking at the family pictures, like you'd think that this is, okay, we're all sitting for a picture for, what is it, maybe 2 minutes? Get the group together, well, maybe even 45 seconds. Get the group together. This is your chance to exude energy for 3 fucking seconds while someone snaps a picture. 3 seconds! You can try to give a big beaming smile like you're having a good time. No, everybody just looked so tired. I actually said, excuse me, to one of my cousins who was in the picture, she's the one who sent it to me. I said, God, was this a funeral? What was this? Like, what was happening? Are we in palliative care? Is this a nursing home? Like, everybody just seems so... And she said, well, it was kind of a boring party. Now, I admit, my brothers were the ones and their wives were the ones that coordinated it. I had nothing to do with it. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe you do need a gay man to plan a party. That's a PSA for pride. I should have done this segment a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, so for me to get the jokes about, over the hill, aging, whatever, it's like, really? Maybe it's just, it doesn't bother me. I don't know. So this whole, 43rd birthday, over the hill, whatever. Hey, you know what? I'm the one who gets to sleep until noon every day. And, truthfully, let me just break this down for you. I know we've got to go for a break, but since I retired at the age of 39, when our top 40 syndicated radio show went off the air, I'd spent 15 years, doing that and writing a newspaper column and hosting this podcast and, being a newspaper columnist for 20 years and book publishing and all this other stuff. And I just really pulled back. So it was 4 years ago where I just really slowed down. And I can even, on your phone, when you have like your photo memories, Google will pop up like, 2 years ago or 3 memories, whatever. I look younger now since I've slowed down. And I don't have I don't have any bad habits. Like I'm a water drinker. I've even though I own a coffee company, I've never had a sip of coffee in my life. I've never even physically touched a cigarette, let alone, a drug or anything like that. And again, I'm not preaching. I'm just saying this is my life. And so, I kind of sit there and go, yeah, I'm a water drinker. I rest all the time. We sleep until noon most days. My husband then goes to the gym. I will go to the bath. I'll have a bath for about an hour. We'll walk the dogs. We'll have a leisurely day. And that's just kind of the day. Like there's structure to it, but there's not. Like we know we're going to order food from somewhere tonight, but whatever. Same thing like, hanging out with my cousin where we're just kind of whatever. Like there's no stress in our life. There's no drama. And I think that that's also a big part of it. Like I sleep very well. We kind of keep a late night. I still do, writing, and I manage I own our companies, so I'm still, involved, but I'm not doing, 9 to 5 job, stuff. So if I'm following up with things, it's at midnight, I'll be sending emails or whatever in the middle of the night. And that's, and I've always been like that creatively as a writer. When I would be writing my newspaper column, it would be 10:30, 11 o'clock at night is when I would do it. The newspaper would want it by 4:30. And I'm like, you know what? You're not going to be there in the evening. So what does it matter? It'll be there in the morning when you're going to be looking at the stuff anyway. So, and if you want, my best creativity, for some reason, it happens at night. And it's the same thing when I was hosting my show. I would do these brainstorming sessions and just kind of the energy was flowing at, 3 a.m. And that's just, writing and creativity isn't a switch that you just flip on, right? So when I've worked in an office, to start at 8 o'clock, I mean, sure, that's fine if that's what the office does. But for me, I'm not just going to sit down at 8:02, start hammering out a newspaper column. I need the day to kind of get me going, have my thoughts going and flowing. And then maybe that's why I do it at the end of the day, right? I've had everything, go through my head. My energy and everything's up. So, I mean, to be 43 and just, I don't feel 43, right? I guess that's what I said earlier is like, it's all about how you feel. It's not a number and whatever. And so, I went to, Oh, that's right. We got to wrap it up. I'm going to talk about going to the chiropractor. She just had a baby, and she's younger than me, but I'm younger than her. Tell you about that in a second on the Scribble. Back in a moment.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
JB here on the Scribble. Oh, Grandpa JB. I'm just playing into it because, I went to the chiropractor just the other day, and this is one of those things. Now you're going to go and say, well, wait a second, you just talked about having a perfect life, but you still kind of need an adjustment every now and then, right? Like you still need a massage. You still need to get, a tune-up, if you will. That's actually what I say to her when I go there. Now, she had a baby at the end of December, so she was actually off of work for, what did she say, 6 months. Now, she's 30, I'm going to get this wrong, 36 or 37, and she just had her first kid with her husband. Now, we were talking about it at the end of December when I went for an adjustment, and she was obviously excited and nervous and, oh, this is my last week or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And so I fast forward now 5-6 months, or no, yeah, she had the baby at the middle or end of January is what she said. I actually thought it was a Christmas baby, and she's like, no, that was just when I was stopping work. And I said, oh, okay. So she's back now, part-time at her office. And so I said, oh my God, she had a girl, everything's great, baby's healthy, perfect. And, I always kind of like hearing when, new parent, because like, is it what you expected? What was most overwhelming for you? What did people tell you maybe like to scare you that you were just like, now I've gone through it, it's not as bad as what you said? Did you run into things like that? And so she said, oh, I was thinking about, I'd be bringing my baby into work and we just keep her off to the side and I could, be a working mom and all this other. She's like, no way, no chance that was happening. And she said a bunch of her friends and a couple of her relatives all are having kids like this year. So some of, we're all more than halfway through the year, obviously. But she was saying like, it's like the year of the baby for her circle of people. And I said, well, that's going to be interesting too, because, there's going to be competition where all your kids are the same age, right? The soccer players are going to be. And so she said, it is exhausting. I don't have time to get into like all the details, but there was an issue with like the kid not breastfeeding properly and just a whole bunch of things that were kind of happening. Like I said, she's healthy. Everything's fine. They're both good. But that's where I was laughing because I said to her, it's been a while since I've had an adjustment, a checkup with you. And, so how are things? And she said, well, just like your one shoulder and the, side of your neck. I said, well, that's an age thing. And she said, absolutely, there's nothing wrong. And I said, perfect. So isn't this great? I said, it's a good thing that you don't see me very often, right? I mean, it's terrible for your business, but I mean, right, the less you hear from me as the patient or the client, the better, because that means that I'm in good health and I'm in good shape. And so she said, yeah. And I said, do you feel older than I am? Because obviously, like I said, I'm, 5 years old or whatever. And she's like, I feel like an old woman. I feel like an old lady. And she's only, how many months into the motherhood. And I said, are maybe regretting it now? Or and that's sort of a touchy thing to make a comment, right, about a mom, like saying that, you regret having a kid. But we were already in the joking, mode. So I wasn't worried about offending her. And she was just like, I think sometimes, depending on like the lifestyle that somebody wants to have, not having kids is probably, the best way to go. That was her diplomatic way of answering the question. And I said, yeah, that's the thing. We have 2 dogs and that's fine because they can, we walk them every day or whatever it is. But, it was just, yeah, I see her looking tired. She's not even a year into it. Well, okay, so that's not correct. Like, let's say she's a year into motherhood from the pregnancy to now. Obviously, that's, she's more than a year. But, now that the baby's popped out, I mean, it's just kind of like, wow. So I said, and husband, like, what's it? She's like, I think he's getting gray. He wasn't gray before, but I think, yeah. I said, you don't think that's just from this kid thing, do you? She's like, yeah, I think so. Like, I kind of see him aging. And I thought, holy jeez, and this kid isn't... Just think about it. Like, when you're going to have it in the terrible twos, and then you're going to have like a teenager. You're going to have the mouthy little snotty brat kid who's, going through the stores and touching everything and knocking things down and not listening to you. And I'm just like, wow. So, I flip back into going, 43, bring it. Bring it, because I don't have these kinds of war stories like everybody else does. I look damn good for my age, everybody. I do. I look damn good. So, on a good day, let me ask you a question. I'm going to open up the email box now. On a good day, how old do you feel? So, do you feel like your actual age? So, I'll explain this. Do I feel 43 years old? Do I feel 5 years younger, 5 years older, 10 years younger, 20 years younger, 20 years older? On a good day, let's say on your average day, 7 days in a week, average for the week, how old do you feel? Do you feel your age? Younger? Older? Where do you fall? It's a really hard thing to quantify, right? Because, when I look at my life, I bought a house when I was 25. I was very, very professional. I was, working on, doing the radio stuff. And so for me to go and say, how did I feel physically? Like, how did I feel when I was 25? Well, I was tired because I was working so much, right? So it's exhausting, sure. But, like, how old do I feel? It's hard to go and say, like, oh, well, I feel 30 because, or does anybody go and say, I feel 33? Well, how do you quantify that? What's the measure of that? But I would say in terms of just my upbeat, silliness and playfulness and, hey, let's just go and randomly do something tonight. That's something that I was doing as a teenager. So, do I feel like I'm 15 again? In terms of like the energy and my silliness and just get up and go and do it, yeah, I do. I really do. Now, physically, I don't know how a 43-year-old physically feels, right? Everybody's different. I don't know. I've never had an illness. I've never had a baby. I've never, so what does a normal 43-year-old feel like? Do I have, a crick in my neck today? Well, yeah, but whatever. I mean, a 20-year-old can have that from sleeping the wrong way, right? So for me, I'm just kind of like, do I feel 43? No. I don't know how old I feel, but it certainly would probably be younger 20s. I don't feel old in the sense that, oh, I need help getting up off the couch today, or, oh, I make groaning noises when I'm, bending over to tie my shoe. No, I don't do any of that kind of stuff. So, how old, how old do you feel? Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. Tell me, 7 days a week, average in the course of the week, how old do you feel? We'll be back on the Scribble right after this.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter @The Scribble Show and @thescribbleshow.com.
JB here on The Scribble. One of the things that we were just talking about before taping this show was the idea of birthdays and how workplaces recognize them, right? Sometimes people know when your birthday is and will decorate your desk or whatever before you get in, and it's kind of like, oh, or they'll bring you cupcakes or whatever. And I've always been just like, we don't need to, like, we're not doing a group lunch, like, it's not whatever. Not to downplay it, but I just don't, like, it's a regular work day, like, it's not whatever. Like, you people, and I'm talking about when I was working in other places, because our group here, I hate when people use a term like, we're a family. Hey, family. It's so gross. But our group has been together for 20 years, so, that is essentially like a family, right? How often do you have a coworker that you've been with for so long? And so I just remember always kind of like, every time people would get excited about, like, decorating somebody's desk, and then you'd pass around the card and it's somebody that you don't even know who they are, but you still have to sign it anyway. So I've always laughed about how workplaces recognize birthdays. Does the boss go around and say like, oh, it's Karen's or it's Debbie's or it's Tom's, birthday today, but it was funny because I worked in a corporate office. This is going back, I don't even know. Probably I was in my early 20s, and it was a big company, but because several departments shared the same floor, like the same workspace in an area, it was kind of like, okay, well, the card will get sent around, literally to everybody in the area, which is, 40, 50 people. And, you'd recognize them. I would know them to see them, but ask me what her name is, I have no idea. And so I just remember always being like, and pretending to sign the card, because they're going to go and look and like, oh, Jeremy said happy birthday. It's Jeremy. Which one is he? Is he which I don't even know who that is, right? So there's something that's just like, I realize that it's the gesture, it's the, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, whatever. It's like when people all of a sudden are posting on Facebook. They didn't know that it was your birthday until Facebook told them. So obviously they don't care. But, they're just like, it's the nice thing to do. And so, I don't know, when you see that, and there's times where I'm looking going, I don't even know who the hell these people are, but thanks. I mean, your name doesn't look familiar, pictures, I have no idea who you are, but thanks, I guess. So, it's just one of those things. Does it really mean something if it's somebody that you don't know, right? So, tell me about your workplace, though. Do you like being recognized for your birthday? Are you one of those people who's like, put the tiara on me, it's my birthday? Or do you do, as I said at the top of the show, those social media posts of another year around the globe, or what are they called? Another year around the sun. Just like, this is the obligatory, oh, happy birthday, have a great day. Oh, just fucking gag me. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. Oh, what another year around the sun, everybody. My name is Jeremy Bradley. Thank you in advance for your birthday wishes. Now you're going to go and say, wait a second, isn't this why you just did the entire fucking show, is to get happy birthday messages from people? No, it was not. It was for content and money. I will talk to you same time, same place next week. Bye-bye for now. Happy birthday to me.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some